where do the complications come in to trapping these guys? Like if you watch or go to like a lot of those nonprofits, they in the private sector are probably doing just as much, if not more work than the government sector when it comes to locking these guys up. Is there just too much like bureaucratical red tape, or why is it not so easy when you have all of these women coming forward saying, this is what happened, he's right there, go get him?
You'd have to prove it, so that would have to make it through a court of law, due process. And it's so backed up. I've done sexual assault kits, never heard anything back. Without that concrete evidence, it would be hard to prove in a court of law.
It seems like a sting operation would be the easiest, fastest, most tangible way to gain that evidence.
So I'm weird about stings, I'm definitely for stings that trap abusers of minors. The problem with stings that we deal with when we start dealing with adults is that, willing adult sex workers and victims of human trafficking get arrested as well. And it's kind of like,
and that doesn't make sense.
This is like, it's so horrible, There's something else I want folks to know too, and this is something I cannot get out. There you are. You just popped back up. Yes. Because I didn't want to look at myself.
I know, I hate when that happens.
But one of the most things, like disturbing things that's just seared in my brain and I cannot get rid of it, is the fact that Gabriel Dance from the New York Times was told in his investigative journalism about this issue that the FBI and the LAPD cannot focus on anything other than anyone younger than a toddler, because the child sexual abuse material is so much. There's so much they can't even focus on anyone that's not a toddler or younger. So when it comes to adults, like it's kind of like the lowest on the pecking order. We need to definitely focus on the child sexual abuse, the child trafficking, labor and sex. These are definitely the most egregious. I'm not saying that adults don't matter. We do. But dang, if we can't, this is a whole next generation that's just lives are being ruined.
And there's that ripple effect too, right? So it hurt people.
Yes.
And I don't think that there's enough resources, like you said, to even catch everybody and save everybody, let alone heal everybody. So I think that's a really cool thing that I'm seeing a lot of the nonprofits do in the private sector, is they're allocating a certain amount of their budget for therapy after.
Yes.
So my friend with Operation Rescue Children, the first thing they do when they scoop up these kids is they put them in a facility with professionals to make sure that they can start healing their mind from this trauma. And then with Child Rescue Coalition, she has this really Bears and Blankets program that she's doing. So immediately they're giving them something for comfort, because they recognize the ripple effects of the mental abuse aspect of this. And it's obviously not to take away from the physical, but that's what lasts potentially the rest of your life.
Yes.
And that's wildly expensive, but I think we definitely need to be focusing on it more. And I think it was last year that even the Trump administration was giving more money for that, to make sure that there were psychologists at these facilities when they're taking in these victims. So I'm glad that we're starting to focus more on that part of the healing process of it.
We're getting better at it. That's like I was saying, remember how I was saying, like, we just kind of we're just now kind of getting good at the aftercare, the aftercare, and more programs, more funding, more knowledge about the crime, more knowledge about what works and serving survivors after they've had an opportunity to be free. meeting survivors where they're at. That was one area I think that the movement was really struggling when it's kind of like people get out and then it's like, okay, we're going to force you to heal the way we think you should heal. Now we're really just trying to meet survivors where they're at and just give them a trauma-informed, survivor-led experience. And that means that they choose their own level of healing and what that looks like for them. That's what's worked well for me. The force thing, like the kind of like, this is how you're going to heal, did not work well for me. For some survivors, that's great. They like that, like more structured vibe. For me, it wasn't so much like that. So it is pretty cool to see some big changes being made. I think that awareness for the issue has definitely increased. And I think I think that we are headed in the right direction with that. I think that as far as what we're going to see globally, as far as folks falling into this lifestyle is going to increase so much. This is not going away. For anyone out there with kids, please talk to your kids. Please educate your kids on what can happen as far as being groomed online by a predator or, being sold the dream by somebody pretending to be somebody else. You don't want your children to have to go to those aftercare programs. Trust me.
That's it for this week's episode. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate and review, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also share this podcast with a friend. It helps my podcast grow, and I really appreciate it. I hope to see you next week.